There are also other strands of debates, and particularly which has been raised over here by the gentleman on the right about caste, and Diana, did I say your name correctly, on social inclusion. And I think these are important issues that somehow get swept away under the carpet when you look at the larger issues of nation building and peace building process. But I think I'd like to really concentrate on those two issues because consistently development outcomes have shown, that gender, caste, ethnicity, geographic location are really strong determinants of access to services, education, and even political representation. And that is why I think the focus now really is how do we rectify historical abuses, historical exclusion, and even historical discrimination, which has left more than 1/2 of the population outside of the mainstream of politics or socio-economic issues, and has rendered them really powerless. And I think somebody was talking about decentralization. I think Pradeepji himself said decentralization is really the key to empowering people. And it is really sad that one of the good things about the past regime was that it truly entered or embarked upon decentralization in trying to give people the choice and the options to speak for their own needs, to speak for their own rights. And that was taken away by an elected government of Nepali Congress. And that has really pained me all through, because through that process, 33% of the women had come into decision making in local politics. And that is very important because although affirmative actions are an important vehicle for social inclusion, but affirmative actions, as the trend goes in India and also in Nepal, have only benefited the kith and kin of those who have been in positions of power. And therefore, decentralization really helps the poor, and that to the poor woman, to come or have a say in their local governance structures or local decision making. And that is very important. And therefore, I think today in all this, in the wider debate, in the wider discussions, I think affirmative actions, as they would really benefit those who have been historically disadvantaged, the women, the Dalits, the ethnic communities, the indigenous communities. I think that also needs to feature in these discussions. And I think we have a lot to learn from India. Even today, this debate rages on whether affirmative actions really work. But while numbers are important, I think we also need to build the capacities of those who are benefiting from those affirmative actions. And to come to the point of Yana, who said, how long will the people keep on tolerating these injustices? Will keep on tolerating what the status quo. I think what has really worked in our part of the world is fatalism. And I think that is what the communists are trying to, or those who call themselves socialists, are trying to really confront. Fatalism has really helped women and the Dalits to accept their fate. And the woman always says, I hope in my next birth I will be born as a man, so that I do not suffer the indignities or the injustices of this world at the moment. And I think that hope of the next world or the next rebirth helps them to keep going on. And the same with the Dalits. But now a lot of awakening has come up, and we need to really sustain that momentum, which helps both those who have been outside of the mainstream of governance or decision making to come into the mainstream. But how? And I think that was the very proverbial question that Vijayji raised. What can civil society really do to help in the process of nation building, in the process of developing or enhancing relationships between India and Nepal. And I think even around this table, forgive me for being so blunt, I still think, somehow that picture of Nepal being very Indo-centric, I think that myth needs to be busted. Because if you will look at the Himalayan region, at the mountainous region, where they have nothing to do with the culture or of the social practices that is so much common, say, in the capital or in the plains. In those remote regions, they do not even know if they belong to Nepal or where they belong. They could not care less who is in power. And I think we need to be more inclusive in that sense also, and not to be so Indo-centric, thinking that the world starts and ends from here. And I think that expansive view will also help us to maybe allay the fears of China. See, today US, is it has a loan to China, $3 trillion, and yet they are not afraid of China, that China is going to swallow them up. But then they are strategizing how within this globalization they can really make things work, even if they are $3 trillion in debt. So if we can really help both the viewpoints to come together, I think Nepal does not have to be sandwiched, or that psyche, that has been, I think it is a spillover from historical times. I think we also need to address these issues and not play those cards and pit each against the other. And that is where, of course, I know it suits a few people, and those are the people who make the decisions and who shape the present. But I think as civil society representatives who are really concerned about the well-being, about the empowerment and equality of the Nepali men and women and children of all creed, of all castes and of all color, I think we need to take this into account and be more expansive and think out of the box how we can really shape our own present, and by doing so help build a better future for all. So these are some of the thoughts that I would like to leave with, and I'm very thankful that you have organized this discussion, which is a very healthy discussion, and it has been an honor listening to all of you. I'm meeting you all, many of you, for the first time, and I look forward to more discussions of this nature. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bhartiji. It was quite freshening, I mean, what you taught was totally different and really out of box. Now, we have two speakers and two participants, I would say. Before I call upon Rituji to share her views, I request Tej Bhai Bhandari. He is working on Indo-Nepal border, and he has very authentic information about what flows between, in the form of human beings, human capital between Nepal and India. And he understands the real actual plight of poor people of India as well as Nepal, and what makes things better or worse for them. And it would be quite, he has done many studies. I mean, he has an institution on the border, and having a lot of struggles. His family lives in Delhi, he alone stays there, working among the migrants from Nepal, and he's done a lot. I would request him to briefly share his thoughts. I mean, thank you very much.
धन्यवाद श्रवण भाई. मुझे कहने में बहुत फख्र महसूस करता हूँ मैं कि मैं और श्रवण भाई लगभग 40 वर्षों से साथ ही रहे और हमारा गांधीयन विचारधारा से लेकर के आगे की जो यात्रा है हम लोगों ने बहुत लंबे समय से साथ साथ की है। अभी मैं अपनी जिस तरह से मैं अपनी संस्था का लगी सवेरे श्रवण भाई नहीं आए थे तो थोड़ा सा मैंने ब्रीफ किया था अपने बारे में कि हम क्या कर रहे हैं। तो बनबसा में जो नेपाल के लिए जो मेन एंट्री पॉइंट है वहाँ हमने लगभग 30 वर्षों से काम कर रहे हैं और हमारी एक संस्थान है जिसका नाम उत्तरांचल विकास संस्थान है। और नेपाल के उस पार विशेषकर जो पार वेस्टर्न रीजन है उसके जो 10 जिले हैं उसमें कुछ संस्थाएं हैं, नेपाली संस्थाएं जिनके साथ हमारा एक नेटवर्क बना हुआ है। और क्रॉस बॉर्डर इश्यूज साथ में जो हमारा जो माइग्रेशन है, माइग्रेशन जो वहाँ से होता है हम लगभग 3 लाख लोग जो है हर साल उस वहाँ से वहाँ से डिस्ट्रीब्यूट होते हैं पूरे भारत में। कोई शिमला जाता है, कोई ऋषिकेश जाता है, कोई उत्तराखंड में जाता है, कोई बेंगलोर, यहाँ तक सारे पूरे देश में यहाँ से जाते हैं। तो जो नेपाली जो संस्थाएं हैं उनके साथ हमने जो क्रॉस बॉर्डर पर जो उनको जब वो वापस आते हैं तो उनको लूटा जाता है। तो उस लूट को ख़त्म करने के लिए हम लोगों ने एक नेटवर्क बनाया हुआ है। तो हम और जो नेपाल की संस्थाएं हैं वो वहाँ बैठ करके उनका निगरानी करते हैं। लेकिन दिक्कत इतनी है कि जो मुझे लगता है कि शायद इंफॉर्मेशन की सूचना की बहुत कमी है। जो नेपाली हमारे मित्र भाई बहन जाते हैं तो उनको रास्ते में ही जैसे जहर कुरानी के मामले आपने सुने होंगे, तो उनको लगभग यहाँ गुजरौला में जब वो होटल में खाना खाने बैठते हैं तो वहीं उनको लूट लिया जाता है। लूट लिया जाता है, जहर कुरानी कर दिया जाता है और बस में उसको जहर दे करके और फिर बनबसा में वो ड्राइवर और कंडक्टर जो है उनको वहाँ छोड़ करके हम चले जाते हैं। तो कुछ इस तरह का काम हमने उनके साथ नेपाल के लोग हैं और जो व्यापारी कम्युनिटी है, क्योंकि बनबसा का जो व्यापार है मेन महेंद्र नगर के ऊपर ही निर्भर करता है, नेपाल के ऊपर ही निर्भर करता है। तो बनबसा के जो व्यापारी लोग हैं उनका भी हमने एक संगठन बनाया हुआ है व्यापारी कम्युनिटी के साथ। तो वहाँ उनको कम से कम उनका पूरा पैसा तो हम उनको नहीं लौटा सकते, लेकिन एक कलेक्शन करके उनका जैसे इलाज करा करके और कम से कम घर तक उनको पहुँचाने का हम जिम्मा लेते हैं। इस तरह का हमारा एक नेटवर्क बना हुआ है। तो उसी तरह जो हमारे नेपाली मित्र पार हैं, जो जैसे नेपाल नेशनल सोशल वेलफेयर एसोसिएशन जो है सबसे बड़ा हमारा एक नेटवर्क है वहाँ, जिनके साथ हमारा बहुत घनिष्ठता का संबंध है। वो हमारे मेंबर भी हैं, हमारे जनरल बॉडी के मेंबर भी हैं। तो उस बार भी जो भारतीय लोगों के साथ यदि कुछ इस तरह से होता है तो वो इस तरह से वो काम करते हैं। और जो मेन जो ट्रैफिकिंग का मुद्दा है, जो वहाँ से जो लड़कियों को जो वहाँ से उनका जो व्यापार होता है वो भी उसी रास्ते से होता है। एक तो फॉरेस्ट बॉर्डर होने से, खुली सीमाएं होने के कारण उसको एक जगह रोक पाना बहुत मुश्किल है, वो कहीं से भी निकल जाते हैं। तो हमने उनके साथ जो नेपाल के जो संगठन है हमारे, उनके साथ कम्युनिटी के स्तर पर, वहाँ समुदाय के स्तर पर भी हमने एक मुहिम छेड़ी है कि मैं समझता हूँ कि जो ये ट्रैफिकिंग का जो मुद्दा है ये बहुत संवेदनशील मुद्दा है, बहुत सेंसिटिव है। और इसको रोकने के लिए हम चार बिंदुओं पर काम कर सकते हैं। एक तो कम्युनिटी के स्तर पर, और दूसरा जब उसको लड़की को या किसी लड़के को जब बेचा जा रहा है उसमें, और तीसरा जब वो जो क्राइम जो है बिक चुका है और उसके बाद वो रेस्क्यू का है, और चौथा जो है रिहेबिलिटेशन का है। रिहेबिलिटेशन का जो मुझे लगता है वो सबसे बड़ा, उसी तरह का सम्मान जो पहले लड़की उसमें पाती थी उस तरह से वो मिल जाए। तो ये हमारा उन लोगों से, नेपाली मित्रों के साथ भी इस तरह से हमारा वार्तालाप डायलॉग चलता रहता है। महेंद्र नगर, धनगढ़ी, नेपाल, इन 3 जिलों में हमने बड़ी उससे जो मैती नेपाल है, मैती नेपाल के साथ भी हम लोगों ने ये सारा कार्यक्रम उसके तरह शुरू किया हुआ है। और जहाँ तक मुझे लगता है कि शायद ये जो सारी चीज़ें हैं इनको एड्रेस करते हुए हमारी संस्था जो वहाँ वो काम करती है। यहाँ तक कि जो नेपाल के जो बच्चे हैं, नेपाल के बच्चों के बारे में हम जैसे हमारे यहाँ जो यहाँ एक्टिविस्ट, जो नेपाल के एक्टिविस्ट जो काम कर रहे हैं उनके साथ भी हम ये शेयर करना चाहेंगे कि जैसे नेपाल के बच्चे यहाँ भारत में आते हैं तो वो उनको ढाबे में और उनको और बुरी तरह से उनको किया जाता है, प्रताड़ित किया जाता है, उनका यहाँ तक यौन शोषण भी होता है। तो हम उसको भी रोकने के लिए अब, लेकिन हमारे यहाँ जैसे पुलिस है ये कहती है कि नहीं भाई हम नेपाल के बच्चे हैं, इनकी जिम्मेदारी नहीं लेते, लेकिन हम उनको और भी याद दिलाते हैं कि भाई जैसे हमने जो ट्रीटी साइन की है नेपाल के साथ, जो ट्रीटी साइन की है, तो बच्चा जब इस बार आता है तो वो उतना ही हकदार बन जाता है जैसे जो अधिकार हमारे बच्चे के होते हैं। तो उस तरह से ये करके इस तरह के ये एक मुहिम भी हम लोगों ने चलाई हुई है। पिछले दिनों हमारे नेपाल के 8 बच्चे जो यूनिसेफ के स्कूल में पढ़ते थे, उनको ईंट के भट्ठों के ऊपर बेच दिया गया। तो वहाँ से जो यूनिसेफ के जो स्कूल के जो टीचर थे वो हमारे पास आए, हम लोगों ने उनको ईंट के भट्टों को यहाँ से मुजफ्फरनगर से कहीं से छुड़ा करके उनको वापस किया था। इस तरह का काम हम जो लोगों का करते रहते हैं। लेकिन मैं यहाँ इस बात एक चीज़ ये करना चाहता हूँ कि मुझे लगता है कि हम इतने पता नहीं क्यों इतने संवेदनशील नहीं है, क्योंकि ये जो बच्चों का व्यापार है या महिलाओं का जो व्यापार है, हम इतने संवेदनशील नहीं। कहीं कहीं तो ऐसे भी हमको उदाहरण देखने को मिले हैं कि एक भाई अपनी बहन को बेच करके चला गया। लखनऊ में जब हम एक सर्वेक्षण कर रहे थे, कि हम वहाँ कोठे पर गए, तो कोठे पर उस बहन से हमने बातचीत करना शुरू की। तो उन्होंने सोचा कि शायद हम कोई ग्राहक होंगे, क्या होंगे, तो उसने दूसरी तरह से बर्ताव करना हमारे साथ शुरू किया। तो हमने उससे कहा नहीं बहन, ऐसी बात नहीं है, हम आपकी जो स्थिति है उसको जानने के लिए आए कि आप यहाँ तक कैसे पहुँचे। तो वो लड़की जो है फूट फूट करके रोने लगी, और फूट फूट कर रोने लगी और कहने लगी कि एक भाई आप हैं जो इस तरह से मुझे कर रहे हैं, और एक मेरा जो सगा भाई है वो मुझे बेच करके चला जाए। इस तरह का हृदय विदारक चीज़ें जो है सामने आती है। तो मैं समझता हूँ कि जब तक हम सारी जितनी भी संस्थाएं हैं आपस में मिलकर के संवेदनशीलता नहीं दिखाते हैं, तो ये काम जो है होने वाला है। मुझे हम लोगों ने इस मुद्दे पर भी काम किया। प्रदीप गिरी जी ने जो थॉट प्रोवोकिंग जो हमारे साथ अपने प्रवचन रखे हैं, इससे हम बिल्कुल सहमत हैं। हाँ, इतना जरूर है कि थोड़ा हम लोगों के मन में भी जैसे संशय है। एक प्रश्न तो हमारे सामने ये उठता है कि क्या जब 3-4 साल पहले जो ये माओवादी आंदोलन जो पूरे चरम सीमा पर था, तो उसमें हर कोई जो था वो अपने आप को माओइस्ट ही कहता था, चाहे वो और माओइस्ट कहता था। उसके बाद कई तरह के काम भी करते थे, लूटने का काम और लड़कियों को बेचने का काम इस तरह से करते थे। तो ये सारा जितना भी है इसको किस तरह से टैकल किया जाए। अभी भी कई जो है वो बिल्कुल जो है फेक जो है वो बने हुए हैं, माओइस्ट बने हुए हैं, और हमारे जितने भी वहाँ उस पार जो संस्थाएं काम करती हैं उनके पास चंदा लेने के लिए पहुँच जाते हैं, कहते हैं ये देखिए हमारे पास माओइस्ट है। तो उस चीज़ को किस तरह से टैकल किया जाए, ये मुझे लगता है हम लोगों के सामने बहुत बड़ा प्रश्न है। तो इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ मैं
Thank you, Tej bhai. I wish for Jana's benefit, all these things could have been translated, but given the shortage of time. Now I request Rituji to say a few words. We have skipped a total session of hers, and you should say something.
Well, on that session, I think it would have been, in a sense, out of place in the whole discussion and the flow of discussion. So, and it probably needs a whole day on its own, just as we've had for this. So, that's absolutely fine. I think just some thoughts that have been provoked by what I've heard through the day, and from what Pradeep ji said about whatever we do with the constitution, why will it not come back if the conditions remain the same, or which raised Maoism in the first place? So while that debate goes on, what is it that is possible in the frame of development for the people? And there the lessons that we have, and I think the advantage that Nepal has, which India did not have in 47, is the fact of experience of development and the models of development, the experience that we have of that, and therefore you don't need to make the same mistakes again. You're also in an environment where internationally other models are being expected to be developed. So it's possible to try and develop those and get support for it, which we could not. Supposing we had tried to, and which Gandhiji did propose, to start, don't have a fetish for modern science and technology and build from the bottom, from where people are, and we move up. We did not do that in India. In pockets it was tried, and we've always had this mix of Nehruvian and Gandhian tinge, as you said. So that is sort of kept alive, but it's largely been a top-down kind of development model, because of which, if I look at it from the angle of health, and I take, to me that's a marker of what development means to the well-being of people. Is health better today? Yes, in India, there has been a decrease in mortality, increase in life expectancy, but is there less illness, less dis-ease, more happiness? No, that's not what the data shows. There is greater mental illness, there is greater increase in diseases, some we may have overcome, but others which are increasing. There is increase in suicide rates. So there, clearly happiness is not on the increase, the reverse is on the increase. Is there better nutrition today? Yes, to the extent that we've overcome famines. We don't have that scale of famine deaths. But we've had a green revolution, but not the nutritional improvement. We still are at the bottom of the pile of malnutrition in the world. So what does and with our growth rates and all of that. So clearly the developed model has not served the people at the bottom. And the only way that we could go is, that Nepal could take the lesson from, is say we do decentralized bottom-up planning from where the people are. The diversity in India, because it's a large country, but Nepal equally has a diversity, both east to west and from the upper reaches to the Tarai. So there is a greater localization that is required. And that is where I would take the issue of Adivasiyat that Narenji raised. If we can take that as a marker of saying there are different worldviews, completely different worldviews, and those need to be factored in and allowed to flower in the development model that is brought in. In the Indian model, that the logic of it was not to allow them to thrive. Even though, as you said, because there was a buffer zone allowed, it survived to a point. But in the present frame, I don't know how far that would go, and that would even be allowed to survive. But can Nepal show the way to a different form of development? There is an opportunity today if the politics can be sorted out. And or maybe can it happen the other way? If the politics is too difficult, but if the debate takes on the development model issue and makes it a marker for the world, then can the politics get sorted out the other way? They are sort of, eat into each other and they feed each other. I think I stopped there. But really look forward to those kind of debates in Nepal so that they can inform India as well.
I think there is a lot of food for thought for Pradeep ji to answer. So many things have been raised and so many things to take back home.
So one thing, if you could allow me to add.
Yeah, please.
So being a student's representative in India, what comes to my mind is that education shapes leaders, and then thus it also at the higher level polishes their capabilities and their orientation. And keeping in mind, obviously ma'am just added that India has already experienced a lot of things and Nepal should go beyond it. Therefore, one question that comes to my mind is about the education policy that Nepal would take for itself, how it would be going ahead with the right to education for all, and also looking at it from a perspective of the impact of communal forces, the Maoists, the communists, the secularists, the minorities, if their impact, all these forces, their impact, how it would be able to, adjust to and give what I would say would lead to a secular education system in Nepal. This is, this, to put it into very few words with regard to education system.
What is your name? He is asking.
My name is Sheikh Shoaib. I'm the National Secretary for Students Islamic Organization of India. Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, before Vijay Pratap ji proposes a vote of thanks,
these people, a state manager will not allow today. So it's implied. Pradeep ji should give the response and your remarks.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I must say, with nothing, no element of elaboration, I think these two questions are without doubt the most important questions. Nepal, if it has to have any peaceful future, to address primarily. Rituju has done a great service. I must thank her profusely for having brought to our notice, I say, not to my notice, a very, very crucial question regarding the drafting of constitution, regarding the success of what constitution is supposed to be drafting. People have been talking of federal states. But no, among the clement of the federal state, with a lot of autonomy, with a lot of ritual power, is one unfortunate zone known as Karnali zone. This Karnali zone does not contribute just more than 7% of the taxation that the share has. The share of taxation that we kind of raised today from Karnali zone is between 5 to 7%. But the area that comprises of, known as Karnali zone, is roughly 30%. So this is being divided in the federal structure. Suppose that unit, Karnali unit, becomes an independent, autonomous, whatever is that state, an unit which comprises more than 30% of the land mass. Again, population is nil because they are mostly Himalayan areas. And poorest of the poor people live there, with nothing to grow on the mountains. They are trans-Himalayan districts also. So there is going to be a transfer. So debate is there, how if at all Karnali is given the so-called political autonomy, is it going to survive economically? Is it going to be viable financially? This question is being debated. How long can Centre, Union Nepal, and go on supporting the bureaucracy and other things? So now the answer comes there. Can we think of a third model of economic development along with the decentralized polity? In other words, can polity be thought of? Can polity be crafted? Can polity be designed without reference to simultaneously corresponding economic model? This is the question. Well, suppose you are thinking of a new kind of polity. So far, so good. But can any polity survive today without an economy corresponding to that new kind of polity? So this is a very, very important ideological as well as, I would say, administrative question. Both. So this is one question which is being heard in Nepal here and there in very, very unfortunately as a matter of some debates here and there. But this question, this problem has not been paid sufficient attention, I must tell you. This has to be debated, and I totally endorse Rituji's suggestion that we have to get away from these two models. There has been one model known as what is known as Janbali model or the Chinese model, or where the heavy top was always there. But even this model, parliament democracy, is always top heavy. In India, of course, Jawaharlal used to pay some attention or lip service to the Gandhi model also, but this has also ultimately ended up as some kind of parliamentary model. The parliamentary model is also top heavy in every sense of the term. There is a cabinet proposes a law, cabinet proposes a budget, and even if you are in the opposition party, even if you want to cut of 1 paisa in that budget, that is not allowed. As a member of parliament, I am sure Mr. Tamtaj's experience is no different than mine. There are times when every MP sees it, which is sense of uselessness and importance. You are an MP to say, all you get is some money to distribute in your parliament maybe, but otherwise the policy intervention of the given MP is very little. This is also highly centralized model, no less more centralized than that of China in the nature of Janbari Vyavastha even today. So this third model, unfortunately, we are not discussing the third model, and I must say any federal experiment of Nepal or any local self-government expression of Nepal, any empowerment of any political unit anywhere in the world is bound to fail without developing corresponding model of third kind of economy. Nothing more, nothing less. What is going to happen to that? Now see, coming back to Karnali Anchal has number of products which are there, could be probably marketed with little imagination, brought to the international notice. But for again number of reasons, which are, we have too small space and time to discuss that, they are being just neglected, and not only being neglected, being marginalized, being destroyed by the current world market, by current globalization market. I think I'll just support Rituji at this hour, at this moment, and say yes, this has to be done, and this can be done. The third model of economic development can be thought of by paying more attention to what our dear friend Vijay Pratapji has been arguing over the years, and nobody is listening to him, Loka Vidya Parampara. There is Loka Vidya tradition, number of people working on that. If that Loka Vidya is resurrected, and correspondingly some policies are made to enrich that tradition, in terms of finance, in terms of other things, something like that. Regarding education, again this education, your quest for the policy innovation in education is going to be integral component of this alternative. Education has two dimensions in Nepal. First of all, education is one thing where every Nepali, particularly the lower class people, lower caste people, look up unto. You know, the kind of economic political system we have, every parent mistakenly or rightly thinks that only by educating his son, only by educating his kid, he can rise in the ladder of the success. So he does his best, he spends every farthing of him to the son's education. So the private schools have roaring success because of that. Good schools so difficult to get admission because of that. But again, there are a lot to be said in education. I think the education system of any democratic country should see to it that the caste basis, class basis, class distinction should be minimized through education intervention. But today the kind of education system we are propagating, we are encouraging, we are popularizing in India or Nepal, this same education system is also creating a new class of people, new kind of elite. And people are hankering, running and ready to pay any kind of money to get educated in Basant Valley School or modern Indian school kind of things. So instead of diminishing class distinction, race distinction, caste distinction, this present education system is, thanks to profit motive behind education, is perpetuating the class, the race and caste distinction. So I would say these two have to go together. Strengthening the local political polity has to have a corresponding economic model, and that corresponding economic model, economic education and health policy has to be the central component of that. Because health and education is what strengthens and encourages local power. Then for that, I think some original ideas have to come forward, and ideas will not suffice. Some practice has to be demonstrated. And I'm sure some people are doing there at grassroots level. So such people have to be invited, and we should know their experience. We should learn from their experience, and we should probably propagate that. Thank God some friends are doing, but I must admit, my party, my movement, my people in Nepal are not very, very aware and not very understand this question. Now, Jana or Yana, Jana. I would like to call it Jana, not Yana, because Jana has a very good meaning in Urdu. Jana means the beloved one. That is the meaning of Jana in Urdu. All of us know that. So Yana, I dare not call it Jana at the moment. Now the point is, the question has been answered more or less by Bharti ji, that fatalism has been helping for that kind of inequality to be perpetuated. But not only fatalism in this part of the world, think of the Christianity, or think of any religion for the matter. Marx was probably not wholly right when he said religion is the opium, or maybe that sentence has been often quoted out of the context. But again, the religion has of course given people this solace of realizing everything in the next life. That way, Christianity has always eulogized, idealized poverty, and I will even blame Gandhi to that extent. That Gandhi has done a great service to India, for all our respect to him, for all our comparison to Buddha to him, that he had needlessly advocated a kind of life which at least I cannot live. So I accept most of his theories about the decentralized development, but his kind of living on the milk of the goat, something alien to me. My Gandhi is rather like that of Challangi Ramunda Bhai, who drinks at times. Very lovely. So this is my position. But again, I would say this has to be undertaken on various layers. Political fight alone will not liberate people. Economic will not alone be sufficient. there must be cultural and spiritual fight side by side, and lots will have to be done in the spirit of, if I may be allowed to put a word, foreign name, Antonio Gramsci, where he speaks of creating hesitation in order to make a new revolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and with these remarks, we close today's
Tea is there.
and tea is waiting for all of us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shravanji. And you didn't leave any time for yourself. Cultures, remarks. Thank you. चलो भाई चाय पियो। क्या हुआ भाई? उसका बेला